In the following little film, we're going to show you that it is important to understand that just trusting in a university knows everything is a bad plan. What they do behind closed doors has a direct effect on what can and cannot happen to this world. They use extreme measures, which means extreme results can occur easily. They use foreign language to most people to keep it hidden from you. They don't tell you what they're doing because they don't want you to know. If you know, you might say you can't do that. And that is exactly what we need to start saying. I'll let you decide as you watch. Do ask yourself this while you consider the film. Which of your classmates, high school, college, or otherwise, do you consider to be God? Because they're playing God, and the consequences are just plain horrendous. Which one would you let play God with your life, your future, your child, your environment, your everything? Which one? I am including some small inventions just to moderate the film that are free. The video is for a treatment of tree borers. The use is by creating steam with poison inside of it to leave behind so that borers do not re-enter the tree. We create steam and then use a device to inject it into the tree or apply it to the bark on a limb or things like that. The steam penetrates the borer hole and goes all the way up the limb. To conceive of an opportunity to fight for life means to accept that all life shall not be gambled with, shall not be threatened by theory or experiment or any little group, including leaders. Therefrom world law erupts to conceive of the methods and ways which construct a foundation upon which we do give ourselves the authority to intervene and participate not only as equals, but as a ruling class called we the people. Therefrom limited capitalism finds its purpose to achieve that legal right. The critical stage is to assemble all the people, finding truth in knowledge, to communicate the foundations of understanding that allow and teach the elemental truths of what it means when people have been leading us are proven wrong. Therefrom we become the owners here by constitutional law. The machine depicted in the second series of pictures that illustrate a variety of designs is the development of energy recovery through the pressurization of gas. That gas is pressurized by rolling up a ramp, or in effect creating a circular inclined plane, which is then used through rotating motion to push back a hydraulic cylinder, thereby pressurizing the gas. To regain the energy contained in the gas, when released, the hydraulic cylinder pushes against the circular inclined plane, thereby causing it to rotate. Consequently, doing work, gearing does the rest. It is particularly useful for such applications as a city bus. A quick overview of the first BrainFirst movies. Some recent media quotes and responses are from Synthetic Biological Advance. The first synthesis of a working artificial chromosome in an organism more complex than a bacterium opens the door wider to man-made microbes. Quote, we can shuffle genes into these chromosomes like a deck of cards. Quote, scientists have created life-threatening virus. Quote, the increase in virulence and transmissibility remained when the team added 2 mutations to a lab virus. Quote, scientists deliberately militarized flu strain in deadly bioterrorism experiment. This earth dies only once. And there's no going back or doing it over. This is a one-time ignition choice, just like nature being forced into chaos is a one-time choice with no going back. Everything will be lost, as is the water, the oxygen, the food, the environment, and everything else life is or needs. All of it is threatened with extinction today. And that is not far away. Right now, they are trying to ignite the same fires on the sun here, proving fight for your life or you're going to lose it. The third image in this Fire Fence 5 documentary is a series of inventions. They are traps for the non-lethal capture of insects and a wide variety of other prey. This is the first page in a series of 10 provided on justtalking.info invention link. The method used here is to recreate the fundamental of grass, or more simply small wires that easily move in one direction mimic grass, therefore seem safe. Once through, the passage is not allowed in the opposite direction. Regardless of the experiment or the consequence, all media, courts, and leaders for each of these realities have proven whatever the university does cannot be questioned, even when the realities state they do gamble with all life on Earth. Not even experiments at extreme are allowed common knowledge by public communication, or we the people have no right to know, no legal rights, no democracy, and no authority to intervene on our own behalf, according to them. The review of Fire Fence 1 is simply the National Ignition Facility is deliberately trying to ignite sunfire here on Earth. Their only plan is a 10 million degree fire will just extinguish itself. Review of Fire Fence 2, the extreme light infrastructure called Eli, is preparing for its first test. Quote, these lasers operate at 1 billion times 1 billion watts of electric power each, or when combined into one area, that will be the equivalent of 3 million of the largest lightning bolts possible, all hitting the same spot at the exact same time at 3 times the speed of light. Each is going at the speed of light in 1 cubic yard of space. The review of Fire Fence 3 is the weakening of atomic structure by the release of wormholes or energies not controlled by the realities of time, which are the weakening of atomic structures and the disciplines that occurred just before the Big Bang. Image 4 is a self-defense mechanism, particularly useful to women or even children. One of several images, these depict a chemical release device that can be used as a ring, bracelet, necklace, or even a pen-style shooting device. All work on the same principle that smell is not only definable, but can mark, identify, and push people away. If the public knows how to relate to a specific smell means trouble, then they have been warned, or the signal for help has been sent. Again, details for this particular invention are on justtalking.info on the Inventions tab on the left of the page. More inventions are coming, but the purpose of Fire Fence 5 is to inform. In 2005, lumber production in the U.S. exceeded 54 billion board feet, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the biggest year in modern history that I found. Antibiotics are failing. In addition, these are known to be creating super diseases because even though they are going to stop working, the industries which use them are determined to let the worst disease this earth has ever produced come. Or we have pennies on the line. Get the hell away. Our entire world livestock industry is dependent on antibiotics today. The factory farm cannot survive without them. That also means we cannot survive one single livestock epidemic. Neither can we wait for any livestock species to rebuild, assuming that is even possible, because we are more than one person standing on 1 acre of agricultural land in this world. Cannibalism is then next. There are at least 15 superbugs and other scary diseases that are being dealt with today that are antibiotic resistant. Think about that. In addition, all of plant agriculture is dependent upon poison. Mutilated foods are now common. They create complex chemicals the body cannot break down or excrete. The result, those chemicals lie in wait, as is cancer and death. These also contaminate the earth, causing whatever eats it that is not human the same consequence or worse that lie in wait for us, and what eats them, etc. In support of that reality, the FDA Food Animal Antibiotic Consumption Dwarfs Human Medical Use. There are links and there are news services that tell you about it. According to the new federal figures, U.S. livestock consumed about 28.9 million pounds of antibiotics in 2009, about 4 times the human medical antibiotic use of 7.3 million pounds. The end of pollinators on Earth is the end of insects. Their death destroys a very important part of the Earth's food chain. With nearly 50% of all diversity on Earth responsible to them, nearly every city, yard, and house uses just as much poison as agriculture per acre or more. Many insect species are threatened with extinction. No food for birds, no food for reptiles, no food for small animals, no food for lots of things. As indicated by the next picture, world pesticide amount usage was approximately 5.2 billion pounds in both 2006 and 2007. That doesn't include the mutilated corn species or other plant species that are specifically targeting insects. The next picture, see the link, shows a pie chart of proportionate to all assessed species in different threat categories of extinction. The risk on the IUCN Red List based on data from 47,677 species. What is red is extinct or nearly extinct. And lots of them are threatened. These are larger creatures than insects. In 2 U.S. Supreme Court docketed trials involving redress, we were denied. That does establish treason by the court. 2 blockaded U.S. Supreme Court trials involving rights and realities of we the people refused to establish traitor. Quote, the legal structure identified as sovereign in this nation is the U.S. Constitution. Quote, world law is bringing any and all leaders into court to make them obey our laws as a world of humanity united by that law. Enforced because we can. We the people are the military. We are the workers who bring food, water, and everything else necessary for society or life. We can use constitutional law or world law to control leaders because we can take them to court as a world and make them obey our laws. The failure to work against these experiments going forward as is happening today, threatening all life on Earth, because these threats exist and increase every day, our time to let leaders run our lives is run out. It is your own decision to let this world die or fight for it today. This is our lives, our world, our nation, our nature, our child, literally our everything. Everything on Earth is threatened with extermination. This is also our money they spend as well. Therefore, it holds the caveat without us to do the labor and present the resources, their assumption of money is worthless. We are the money, along with the resources required for work. If we stop, they are stopped. While none want a depression, reality states by its own truth, without justice only war is left. There is no justice in counterfeiting. There is no life left if you refuse to stop extreme experimentation. No exceptions, no excuses. We are the money, therefore we truly do decide. By taking control of government, as is our duty according to democracy itself, by constitutional law, not by weapons, by law, we will write our own future. Image 5 is the depiction of a vehicle side impacting another vehicle. This device uses an explosive cable cutter to disengage the opposite side of the vehicle being impacted so as to reduce the strain and give a greater distance from the impact origination point, therefrom reducing personal injury, or more simply, it uses the vehicle itself through a minimal amount of chain and expense to protect and defend the occupant in a crash. There are several versions, including one not shown as in a head-on crash, which would, when released, ramp up the passenger compartment onto the engine compartment, thereby consuming energy and giving both time and space to the occupant. As is consistent with the words and works of the entire U.S. stock market, it is merely a game for fools and thieves. Computer trading has gaps that have been extremely corrupting. People who use that money for their fantasies and toys do so by sacrificing our work and resources. It is proven true. The Federal Reserve has a financial accounts of the United States statistical release. The link is above the picture, federalreserve.gov, releases, etc. This is a chart of total liabilities in its relation to total financial assets, and it will be very interesting to you if you can understand it. In part, it says over $159 trillion in debt as a nation, this United States, or over $200 trillion in printed money, which is counterfeiting without the slightest reference to any reality. That is, except the continual production of every university toy possible to threaten our world. Even the military does not do that. But they begin by bankrupting an entire world with their debts don't matter for them, while their toys, which try to exterminate all life on Earth and destroy our entire world, have taken our money for that. The facts are facts, and they're easily proven true. They have counterfeited. One of our many greatest threats is the rise of human population. We're at 7.2 billion people according to them, and that includes the rise of population over death at a rate of more than 2 million more mouths to feed every single week in this world. That food has to come from somewhere. When it runs out, we become cannibals. That's just how it is. Human failure, as is consistent with planetary death, approaches from all sides. Public participation in that reality says no more immigration until you fix this problem as a nation. Stop doing what you're doing, or more simply, don't bring bad decisions here. Every nation has more than enough of them. When you prove truth and responsibility to life as a nation, then your citizens can immigrate. Or you made your problems, so you fix your problems. We have plenty of our own. To that end, it is necessary to support women and children in a troubled nation with a city of their own, while giving men the tools to either fix this, which you created, or war until it is no longer that you find peace and rebuild what you destroy. The stated agricultural land of nations is roughly 7 billion acres. Our human population is recorded currently as 7.2 billion. At 1 pound of food a day per person, that is over 7.2 billion pounds per day of living organisms to keep humanity alive. As indicated by the World Food Program Hunger Map of 2015, there are many people who are already hungry. It's going to be a much more hungry world. The oceans, including the final resting place for regeneration of fishing stocks, which is the Arctic Ocean, are being pummeled. Huge trawlers take every fish they can find, leaving nothing for a new generation, removing what can be considered an entire nations of prey fish, which means the predator fish starve too, which is why even more changes in ocean life are occurring. Complete disrespect, along with the current aquafarming, which is the means to create a complete sea disease disaster. Releasing Fukushima radioactive water into Pacific, inevitable reports Japan was very aware of danger posed by past releases. Contaminants are concentrated thousands of times in the food chain. At end of chain are humans, who may suffer genetic damage, cancer, and other health problems, and even death. So says E&E News, December 16, 2013. As indicated by the chart, there are millions of tons. The estimated sustainable yield is not nearly what we can. Our consumption continues to rise at every stage. We cannot continue to do that unless we use the only method we can to feed the ocean, which is to feed it dead human beings. It's all we have. We need, as humanity, not to be hungry in a day, at least 1 pound of food. To consume food for 365 days a year, that equals 2,628,000,000,000,000 pounds of living organisms, or 1.314 trillion American tons per year for this world, that not including waste, with 2 million more mouths to feed each week added in. Think about that for just a teeny little bit. The next chart, see the link, shows a decline in millions of tons of fishing being caught. This is an older version, 1992 catch. It's worse today, we can bet on it. The next graph shows arable land, or percent of land area that we can farm. See the link. It is useful as a description. Every human being alive is standing on about 1 acre of agricultural land that must sustain them and all other life on Earth as well, apart from what comes from the ocean. Much of it is damaged regardless of flood or drought, etc. If you reduce the amount shown by the probable flood and drought consequences, then we get down to much less ground. And a lot of what is arable land today is destroyed forest or taken over by cities and suburbs. Our water resources are going to collapse. A majority of humanity does depend upon aquifers, and they will soon be empty. Clearly in jeopardy of poison beyond belief. In America, the recent return to excess oil production requires water flooding of all old oil reserves. This is the process of collecting and floating up oil so that it can be recovered. It is not done with salt water. It is not done with rainwater. It is done cheap and easy, as is the rule, and that means it comes out of the aquifer. think about how much water it takes to refill the reserves, the old oil reserves that we have taken oil out of for 100 years. According to the Illinois State Water Survey, it takes 50 inches of rain to put 1 inch of water back in an aquifer. The next picture is hydraulic fracking, established technique or new technology. This press release states that this operation of fracking in England was the same operation that caused 2 earthquakes. It too uses high volumes of water and chemicals in order to maximize the flow of gas. Water that cannot be recovered, just like the oil cannot be recovered. See the site. Fracking is also draining the aquifers because it's easy. And as is the current practice of dumping toxic waste into dry aquifers or wherever across this world, polluting lakes and rivers and oceans, that too is removing our chance to have water. See the link? A brine treatment facility in Indiana County, Pennsylvania, has found that radium levels were 200 times greater in those samples when compared to the collected samples upstream of the plant. The plant processes fracking flowback water, which is highly saline and radioactive fluid that is returned to the surface as part of the fracking process. See the link. It is again necessary to remind you, according to the Illinois State Water Survey, it takes 50 inches of rain to replace just 1 inch of water in an aquifer. I testify to that fact that before chemicals were used for farming, people used to stop at this farm where I live to drink the water because it was good. Today, even though the reports are they didn't find any chemicals they were looking for above the limits they set, the water is only barely drinkable if you need it. The chemicals do not degrade completely in soil. Then they reach the water supply. It's just a matter of time and reality. What do we drink then? You're assumed protectors at government labs, etc., or to shut up and be quiet. This is only a front to disguise things from you. Only liars, through the constant propagation of media, are allowed to tell the public what the public is allowed to hear. Think about that for just a second. They tell you what they want you to hear because money is involved. The next image, Lake Karachay, is a Russian lake. You see the link at the bottom. It says on page 10 of this PDF, which has page 519 printed in the header of the page, which is on the Natural Resources Defense Council website, it confirms 600 rotogens per hour, death in 1 hour, from the contamination of this lake, citing a Russian document titled Practical Rehabilitation of Territories Contaminated as a Result of the Implementation of Nuclear Material Production for Defense. Or more simply, if you're found anywhere near the lake where it was, where the toxins were dumped in, you only have an hour to live. War is inevitable when we run out of water. You have less than 3 days to live unless you find it. When it's serious, you can't have mine, or we die too. See the link. Accordingly, millions of Iraqis have received higher doses of radioactivity than ordinary background levels. As a result, a multifold increase in low-level radiation exposure-related diseases have been registered since '95. An increase in children's leukemia, congenital malformations, breast cancer, etc. have all been noted. This is American contamination of another country. Returning to the water, over the past several decades, U.S. industries have injected more than 30 trillion gallons of toxic liquid deep into the earth, using broad expanses of the nation's geology as an invisible dumping ground. That does not include the trillions of gallons more intentionally dumped on agricultural ground, housing, golf courses, garbage dumps, and all the rest above ground, plus the trillions of pollutants spewed into both water and air. And this is just America. See the link. That report goes on to say no company would be allowed to pour such dangerous chemicals into the rivers or onto the soil, but until recently scientists and environmental officials have assumed that deep layers of rock beneath the earth would safely entomb the waste for millennia. there are growing signs they were mistaken. Records from disparate corners of the United States show that wells drilled to bury this waste deep beneath the ground have repeatedly leaked, sending dangerous chemicals and waste gurgling to the surface or on occasion seeping into shallow aquifers that store a significant portion of the nation's drinking water. The next series of charts, titled UIC Well Inventory 2010, show the toxic injections wells that are buried in each of the states in the United States. For instance, the top line is Connecticut has 710 Class 5 worst types of poison wells. And the next one, Maine, has 5,413, and so on. You might be interested in just how many toxic wells are beneath your feet. Take a look. See the link. Pennsylvania, for instance, has 14,353 wells as of 2010. Last but not least is Washington, with 34,649 wells. Go look for how much garbage you actually produce. It is tremendous. Every single piece of it represents a resource lost. Lost for nothing but your pride for a trophy. The blue and red graph that you next see shows the dispersal of a radioactive material 137 dispersed throughout the Pacific Ocean. If you can look, it shows you Japan on the left, and it shows you the southern shore of the United States on the right. See the link. The garbage of our world is not limited to land. The oceans are in terrible shape. Each and every nation is a contributor. The size of the ocean garbage patch is actually unknown, as large items readily visible from a boat deck are uncommon. Most debris consists of small plastic particles suspended at or just below the surface, making it impossible to detect by aircraft or satellite. Instead, the size of the patch is determined by sampling. Estimates of size range from 700,000 square kilometers, or 270,000 square miles, about the size of Texas, to more than 15 million square kilometers, or 5.8 million square miles. 0.41% to 8.1% of the size of the entire Pacific Ocean. Or in some media reports, it is up to twice the size of the continental U.S. The United States territorial map in yellow and green shows the green areas are where plutonium and uranium contaminations were sent by the United States military and laboratories for the universities. One report says in Church Rock, New Mexico, the site of 95 million gallons of radioactive spill went into the Rio Portico, a river, on July 16, 1979. It's still there. Each state in green has got radioactive toxins from the military. The next picture of says total nuclear tests by location indicate throughout the world where nuclear bombs have been detonated. The bottom says a vast endless experiment, military radioactive pollution. See the link. There were over 2,000 detonations worldwide. Our military is the single largest generator of hazardous waste in the United States, adding some 500,000 tons of toxins annually, according to Sonaria and Astra Taylor in Military Waste in Our Drinking Water. The U.S. military in 2006 generated more than one-third of the country's toxic waste. In 1992, the government had identified 3,200 sites at 100 nuclear weapons facilities that had radioactively contaminated soil, groundwater, or both. The total is possibly 45,000 radioactive hotspots, according to John Cashman's article. Report lists 45,000 potentially radioactive sites, 20,000 of them government-owned. Testifying to Congress in 1988, Dexter Peach, an assistant controller general at the General Accounting Office, said, to clean up thousands of sites owned by the federal government at which uncontained radioactive wastes are contaminating soil and groundwater may be the government's biggest challenge. Nuclear weapons and reactor fuel production have radioactively contaminated so much of the United States that the official cost estimate of merely a partial cleanup, the National Academy of Sciences concluded in 2000 that large areas cannot be cleaned to a safe level, or $365 billion and counting. Part of that reason for the dawning dilemma is that, as the government discovered in 2000, 10 times more plutonium waste from weapons production were dumped into the soil or buried into flimsy containers than was earlier estimated. U.S. estimate of spewed petroleum is raised tenfold. New York Times, October 21st, 2000. This picture here is the human body muscular skeleton. Nothing in this world could convince me it is an accident. Nothing. This is highly engineered, highly specific, highly dedicated to specific purpose. Evolution is a lie. We do not build ourselves one piece at a time. What part of your body don't you need today, right now, or you're going to die? If your blood is too thin, you die. If blood is too thick, you die. If blood fails to rebuild itself, you die. If blood fails to deliver oxygen, you die. Think about it. Blood fails to deliver immunology, you die. Blood fails to collect waste products, you die. Blood cells too little or too big to enter within the living cells of your body, you die. Get the picture? What part did you build of your body as life rather than simply use or abuse? Answer, it is all a gift. Or more simply, you can't buy a hand, an eye, an ear, a tongue, a leg, sexual organs, a face, lungs, immunity, skin, a child, or anything else required for a healthy life. When you cry, whimper, and complain about losing hair, or it grows where you don't want it, etc., do you see the reality? Or more simply, just because evolution says time is all it takes, just because evolution says a body does not need all its parts or pieces, just because evolution says adaptation is proof of chaos building life, or their description of species cross boundaries create entirely new species of perfect life without a brain, a tool, or anything else required. This religion evolution has absolutely no proof. While that is meaningless in itself, because people do believe whatever they want to, they can. In this case, however, the cult, formed with delusions and fantasies, has taken over the university and government and education to produce what is simply Satan. Hell no, we don't have to care about anything. The more mistakes we make, the more mutilations we create, the better life will be. According to evolution, we all come from chaos. Chaos is the death of everything complex. They are like all witch doctor religions. It's a monkey brain living in the sewer that says, follow me. And you do. Because media propagates that. Reality says the evidence proves they are completely wrong. Just like those who claim fusion exists as the fire on the sun. If it were true and every 2 atoms of hydrogen were converted into helium, as they claim, all the heat comes from that, then where is the damn helium? It doesn't exist. Both are extinction for a planet events. We cannot survive a 10 million degree fire. We cannot survive mutilated nature beyond repair, and you know it. Adaptation is their only claim, and it is merely the evidence of perfect design, as in I knew it would be needed. Thought exists. It needs not a body or a brain because it is a participant in the critical energy realities. While evolution says chaos builds life, and they do try deliberately to bring chaos into our lives by a university diploma, threatening nature itself. The next invention is simply written rather than any kind of design. It's railroad energy recovery, or the reality is that there are millions of trainloads of weight moving throughout this nation. The simple act of stopping them requires expansive amounts of energy and its resultant waste. Thereby the energy is to be collected. A very simple and cheap method of putting the energy of a stopping train back into the power grid electrically is nearly in place. All you need is a commutator rail like serves the subway as a means of dumping electrical generation into the electrical lines that serve the community. This can also electrically operate all railroad signals as well, but just adding a commutator line to it and it will run the signals, ending as a power grid need. See the link. In terms of evolution, reality demands to know what part of intensely intricate and complex is chaos. You cannot even begin to understand how to build a body, and you know it. Yet you accept that from this cult religion of evolution that their assertion life is built by the simplest organism possible, which just keeps mutilating itself, has no truth in it at all. Truth requires evidence, which is in terms of life is so far more complex than you can achieve. Even believing evolution as a lie is apparently more than you can do. How truly pathetic is that? Even so, these supposed originating organisms from a sand puddle mud has organics. Still have no tools, no brain, no means of transport of resources or recognition of complexity. Ask the question, where did their food come from? How did it get it? How did they get it? Etc., etc., etc. No mouth? How do you get it in? Evolution is a complete delusion, a fantasy beyond deceit. They can't be that stupid. Look around you. Where is the mutilation of anybody of any kind that is preferable to what nature intended and did create? Do you want to be mutilated? That is what your geneticists are doing every day. They are mutilating life to play God over nature. That's their purpose. That's their plan. The next picture is salt mine under Lake Erie shut down as a precaution. It is one of the more extreme threats that we face. This is just a picture of that environment. This report reads, today the salt mine spreads from its entrance at 12841 Sanders Street over 1,500 acres of Detroit, adjacent to Henry Ford's famous River Rouge plant, and spiderweb by over 100 miles. The costs of being wrong when allowing bad decisions to exist are among the worst here. Mining under the Great Lakes in America, thereby creating an impending and imminent disaster beyond comprehension, as 1 trillion tons or more weight descends approximately 20 feet to crash onto the mine floor. All made possible by the collapse of a single pillar of salt, or more probably an earthquake that shakes an area so large now no possibility exists that it will continue to stand. You have to fill it back up. The result will be an effective earthquake from the tonnage fall, equaling several hundred megaton nuclear explosives. The result will be a collapse of cities within 500 miles of the epicenter, extreme damage to more, the loss of water, the ability to generate electricity, aquifers lost for 1,000 miles, and especially the eruption of Yellowstone supervolcano is an absolute certainty involved with it. At Yellowstone, the magma is much bigger than we thought, the study says. See the link. Proving failure of this mine in particular is not less than half the population of America, and exists as a threat to over half the population of this world if it occurs. The lost food, lost environmental stability, acid rain, the death of plants, the poison of creatures, and so much more from Yellowstone erupting is terrible. Billions can easily die within 7 weeks or so, even if your experts say no, because of the consequence. So horrific will it be, even though we can stop that by simply removing the pressurized gas that makes it possible for a volcano to explode. They won't do it. They've been told for years. The next little picture is of an invention that suggests there are millions of BTUs to be collected in the attic of any building that has a roof facing the sun. In this particular case, the piping is in the trusses from one side to the other with a hookup on each end to deliver cold and then take away the hot water. Or a pipe can be wound around underneath the roof in a spiral fashion that ends at the lower edge of the roof itself. The theory of operation, or just plain facts, is that an attic in 90-degree plus heat outside temperature will produce an attic temperature of underneath 180 degrees. Shingles become 180 degrees in direct sunlight in the summertime when it's very hot. Thereby using the attic for a heat exchanger, you send cold water up from the bottom and to the top with a small solar powered pump. and is brought back into a containment vessel through a copper coil or some form of heat exchange arrangement to accumulate the hot water and hold it at the ready for showers and laundry and etc. The refusal to accept what the consequence of Yellowstone eruption means is going to cause cannibalism will erupt. Disease outbreaks will occur because of the death, and war will be caused by insanity of humanity, as will devastate everything. Not less than the potential for 5 to 7 billion people throughout this world could or would be dead within 2 years, because that volcano will have grievous consequences resembling the expectation of hell. Releasing the gas pressure under Yellowstone would at least reduce the loss by half or less. Filling the caverns would end the worst possibilities of collapse underneath the Great Lakes, which does include the end of water supplies underground for 2/3 of this USA, and all of that for a few pennies more. A pride that we don't have to do nothing is without comprehension. Next image, see the link. Much of Yellowstone National Park lies in the crater of a massive volcano formed in a landscape-altering eruption 640,000 years ago. The crater, or caldera, measures some 28 miles wide by 47 miles long. Or when it erupts, the expectation is for a hole in the ground 27 miles wide by 47 miles long, and then some. There are clear signs it will erupt sometime soon. In other matters, the endless fire of this human population has a price. Every fire, every motor requires oxygen. Even your small economy car consumes the same amount of oxygen needed by over 30 people in a 24-hour day for each and every hour it goes down the highway. The common fuel-to-air ratio for a vehicle engine is 5 parts air to 1 part fuel. That's 1 part gaseous fuel or vapor, not liquid. Without resources, we die. We can't work, we have nothing. Therefore, we can't live as we are, according to Wall Street. They say the last 10 years of manufacturing has produced more goods, thereby used more resources than in all of human history prior to this date. Think about what that means for your future, and remember all that has already been taken. The United States leads the world in the production of waste, followed by other leading industrial nations. The picture following is for, exporters and importers of natural resources in billions of dollars in percentages. 2008. Some simple facts are the U.S. manages to produce 1/4 of the world's waste, despite the fact that its population of 300 million is less than 5% of the world's population, according to 2005 estimates. Reports are the U.S. accumulates at least 236 million tons per year of municipal solid waste alone, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. The United Nations and other agencies estimate worldwide annual waste production at more than 1 billion tons, and some estimates go as high as 1.3 billion tons. See the link. Continuing, the university threat is that we can destroy, mutilate, and damage even more than wars do. We should be afraid. The reality is, afraid or not, confronting what is truth about life and our future, or you die, is necessary. How did it get so bad? You are a cult. Worshipping university knows everything. You don't even question them. See the link. The elements of an education are, if you ain't one of us, then we don't need you. Put in the time or get out and leave early. We don't teach, we separate. That's what universities do. They divide society. In terms of disparity, the pay speaks for itself. They have created for themselves a very large gap between what is a value of a person. The value of a person is life. There's a difference. That fundamentally means, in the future, where university diplomas control every job, there is no place without your diploma and your debt. No place for many diplomas either, because a computer or a robot will do it cheaper. That includes being in the military, as robots become an enemy. Linked to a college diploma are the major costs. The average price of a year of college or 2-year college. Somebody is supposed to pay that, and you are not allowed to get out of it. The university wants its money. They are the only ones that get it, because the university controls government. College debt is, of course, over $1 trillion. $1 trillion equals $10,000 per each and every one of 100 million people. Think about that. It is unlikely all these numbers, the debts include housing, etc. But being indebted does mean you are chained to the wall, and we will make you do anything we say, or you will not work in this field again. Because if you don't pay the price, you'll be thrown out into the street to beg. The university owns you. Debt payments equal the pay of a high school diploma for many years. And there is no bankruptcy, no recourse, regardless of their complete and utter failure to provide something of use to you. And that is only the beginning, because if only a few succeed, then there are plenty of students for next year. Otherwise, the jobs are gone. As all business, industry, etc. is consolidated into a tiny few organizations, they then control all the jobs, all the resources, all the options, the government, regardless of a vote, the corruption of courts, and everything else. As robotics continue to improve, like all machines, they can and will replace humanity. Computers are already replacing you, even though 30 years ago they promised it could not happen. The next picture is public sector employment, the red line, versus private sector employment, blue line, and is the government chart that is intended to say how many of us are employed. The next picture indicates a percentage of people unemployed or employed. See the link. The trend over time of the employment rate for adults ages 25 to 65 was similar to that for young adults 20 to 24. The rate for 25 to 64-year-olds was lower than 2010, 71.5%, than it was in either 2008 or 2000, which was 75 or 77% respectively, and the rate at 2014, 72.3%, was higher than it was in 2010, but lower than it was in 2008 and 2000. In addition, the employment rates in both 2010, or 14 and 10, at each level of educational attainment for both age groups were generally lower than the rate in 2008 when the recession began, or more simply, the increases in robotics, computation, and the efficiencies of removing competitors, thereby controlling the business, means few workers are needed, leaving all the rest thrown away. All tragedies biblically predicted, such as the water will turn into wormwood, are clearly by the evidence already known and set to come true. So says the evidence, without any religious concepts. Imagine that. Without massive human change, there is no hope. These problems are 99% all human-induced threats. In other words, humanity is the cause of our problems, therefore this is the only solution as well. These are choices. It is your child. It is your life lost or saved by the choices you must now make for life instead of your greed. In contrast, Noah's flood is another common ridicule of the university scientist, but all the evidence proves it did occur. Their continual fantasies are nothing but lies. The most critical and without dispute piece of evidence is the real evidence of fossil fuels. All agree this is the result of plant, which becomes coal, and creatures, which become oil and gas, being buried in the same place at the same time in great quantities, many under thousands of feet of soil and ocean. Even so, there are many more examples, such as the Grand Canyon, the layering and separation of sediments on land, and more. No possible method of this occurring exists without that flood, while water is proven to be the clear tool that was used. While life certainly has died since its beginning, to be gathered up into large masses, which are then buried at once, simply does require a flood. Every flood proves this method. There is no Cambrian era or others. A massive flood dumps its sediment in layers, along with everything that falls at that time. Contrary to the Bible thumpers, however, this also proves a vast amount of life existed prior to the flood. Or more simply, look again and open your mind. Back to invention. Auto energy recovery, or the simple purpose of this very simple machine, is to collect the energy lost in normal braking of a vehicle and transfer it back into vehicle motion at the driver's request. Each picture has a particular use or purpose. The one that starts is a cam-operated pump, air pump, that will run an air motor as a secondary source to redeliver power back. It collects air pressure. The next one simply compresses a spring which pushes it back to. The next one uses a cable winding system that controls a hydraulic cylinder. As the cable is wound, it pushes pressure into a container, and that gas pressure then pushes back to turn the axle. See the link. A listing of threats proving no scientist, no politician, no military person can be trusted with the possibility of doing anything scientific anywhere in this world, because even if the repercussions are extreme, they literally cannot stop themselves. That has been proven true throughout all of male-dominated history. See the link. We look to understand more than anything else why the U.S. is bankrupt, which leads to all these other things. No reality is required. NASA exists strictly for military purposes. All the rest is or was nothing more than a public pacifier. The estimated construction cost for more than 1,000 ICBM launch pads and silos with support facilities from 1957 to 1964 was nearly $14 billion in 64-year money. Brookings Institute, total number of nuclear missiles built in 1951 presented 67,500. Total number of U.S. nuclear weapons tests in 1945 and 1992 were 1,030 of them. 1,125 nuclear devices were detonated by the United States. Over 2,000 were detonated worldwide. See the link? See the link. The next chart is the NASA budget as a percent of federal budget. They claim it's not a lot, but when you create a counterfeit budget of $15 trillion of debt and of counterfeiting. Last time I looked, the U.S. claimed $15.8 trillion in gross domestic product. But they also claim that every citizen, the average income is $60,000 a year or thereabouts, and that totals up to about $4 trillion of actual income for the nation. Everything else is just made up. Anyway, according to the Office of Management and Budget and the Air Force Almanac, when measured in real terms adjusted for inflation, the figure for NASA is $790 billion, or an average of $15.818 billion per year over its 54-year history. In March of 1966, NASA officials told Congress that the 59 to 72 run-out cost of the Apollo program would be about $22 billion. The total cost turned out to be between $20 and $25 billion in $69, or about $136 billion in 2007 dollars. This is what their toy costs. See the link. The Nuclear Threat Initiative, October 1st, 2008, the cost of a nuclear weapon When these amounts are factored in, the total incurred cost of the U.S. nuclear weapons program exceed $5.8 trillion. Accounting for the cost of these dual capacity systems present a human cost among all the wars that the United States had fought. Vietnam War is ranked 4th in casualties, just below Civil War and 2 World Wars. Out of 2,594,000 personnel who served in Vietnam, there were more than 58,220 American dead and 153,303 wounded. More than 23,214 soldiers suffered 100% disability. Even when it already ended, the war continued to cost many American lives. It's estimated that 70,000 to 300,000 Vietnam veterans committed suicide, and around 700,000 veterans suffered from psychological trauma. See the link. The economic costs in the entire world, the United States spent about $140 billion, worth about $950 billion in 2011 dollars, including $111 billion military cost and $25 billion economic and military aid to the Saigon regime. At that rate, the United States spent approximately $140,000 for each and every enemy killed. However, $140 billion was only the direct cost. According to the Indochina newsletter of Asia Resource Center, the United States spent from $350 billion to $900 billion in total, including veterans' benefits and interests. Current threats from male-dominated university knows, let's ignite this planet on fire and mutilate all life and destroy all resources and environments, are actual extinction events with no second chances. We need a world court and a world law and world policing, as in we the people of this planet shall rule, thereby bringing our leaders into court if they refuse to obey our laws, and their decisions have not only bankrupted us world, but they've destroyed many, many lives. As is seen by the next picture, the university diploma can take our lives with them, even though they're going nowhere. Going nowhere. The university is not God, but they are clearly the worst thief. We took it all for ourselves, and the biggest traitor. We don't care about any life this world has ever seen. Does that make them devil incarnate? Well, you tell me. A university isn't all bad, which means we must sift through the sewer to find and keep what of them has value. As is true of every group description, while the percentage is significant, they don't represent the whole. The university is our threat. They create the problems that we have. Many of them, they need to be restricted. The reality of university mutilation of nature constructs Armageddon, which does mean nature in chaos. They are bringing us horrors beyond all hope or description. They are establishing with chaos their mutilation of everything. We all die. They are bringing us intentionally our world destroyed by the ignition of the same fire as on the sun here. And there are more threats. How is that good? The next picture of the sun, see the link below. This is their toy, a sun fire. They are determined to bring that same fire here. Think about that for just a second. They are gambling the entire future for every child, every life on earth, without even the chance to survive, because being wrong about their extreme experimentation, the fire not extinguishing itself, you're not standing up for your world, means all life will be destroyed by these few who are intent upon playing God of destruction. How is that not so? The next picture just shows one of the many attempts to bring nuclear fusion here. It isn't fusion, it's nuclear fire. But they won't admit to that, even though they've proven it themselves wrong. Seen in a different way, Even if you grant at least some, a tiny few are doing what they believe will be happy for life, that means that critical, tiny, unforeseen realities can change everything. There are people doing things you don't want them to do. Not ever. The university is bringing us pandemic disease, and they know it by crossing species boundaries. That is truly no respect for life. They cross species boundaries every day across this world. That is the single known proven factor causing pandemic disease. This purpose, this reality of destruction to life itself, is representing a horrific cost to life. That is exactly what the university does, and they do it every day across this world, and have been even created do-it-yourself kits to encourage all of humanity to participate in destroying nature by playing God with genetics. How much more Satan could anything be? Other than, of course, trying to burn the entire planet and even destroy this solar system itself. Well, just another day at University Knows Everything. Well, we are going to get you. Isn't that how that play goes? Genetic mutilation is the start of a disease. Spreads. You can't stop it once it starts. This is just a few little examples. Pandemics are far worse. That fact cannot be disputed. We are threatened with extinction because of what the university has done. That reality does confront us all today. Because time has run out. Their tools have increased to the point that make it possible to exterminate all life on Earth. Nature, the planet, is simply weeks away, if not today. You got to make a decision. This is not a game. Because of what these few and these leaders who gave them our money, and the corruption of courts, and the media who propagate only that the university is God, they can't be questioned, did do. Extinction looms because of them. The most dramatic means of saying there is no going back, you must wake up, has to be this picture of the sun flare, a solar flare. If you look at the bottom of the picture, the size of the Earth there. A solar flare can extend 12 times the distance of the Earth to the Moon. Think about that for a minute. They want to bring that fire here. For our world to survive, there must be true change. That is neither an option or a guess. What university leadership did do is choose everything for greed, and therefrom absolutely the least possible for life itself to continue, fully intending to steal their last days from every child as they did do. They are a disease, but what could you truly expect from those who describe themselves as monkey brains by evolution standards? Your reality has become like mine, even though it was far better for me to leave this place I call home because of the complete disrespect by those who continually trespass with their noise. I could not. It takes time and effort, and this world simply cannot wait. I now face the potential of being deaf. Even so, what can be done for our world and all its life must be done now. We are literally running out of time. You must communicate that truth to our world, to each other, because reality has proven without a doubt that I cannot. It's up to you. Another invention or description is a tsunami warning. The retreat of ocean is the first and imminent sign of a tsunami coming. It gives time for the people to get out of the way, and as such the retreating water is the warning. The only requirement to receiving this warning by machine is to put up float switches or pressure switches, etc. as various intervals out into the bay, out onto a sloping shore, so that as each float is released because no water to support it, this switch then turns on a horn or whatever you like to indicate the water level has in fact gone down past its normal levels. The experiments of Satan, which is simply a university diploma with absolutely nothing for a brain but sewage, because they intentionally want to destroy our world with threats of all kinds, particularly by bringing the same fire here as is on the sun, bringing the same conditions here that caused the Big Bang, bringing us all complete and utter destruction of nature and environment, destroying resources, destroying everything they can touch to their shame, to your shame for worshiping them as gods. as propagated by your media and other leaders, whose cult worship is far more about their personal greed than anything else. So we stand at the gates of eternity, our entire world, and you ask yourselves who to believe. The correct answer is believe in truth and identify reality, understanding fully the consequences of letting these little Satans be wrong. Satan simply means destroyer of a world. Who more so than could that be than those who mutilate nature or claim we can bring a 10 million degree fire here because it will just extinguish itself? Wrong. Is all life dead? Everything, even the solar system itself. How is that not Satan? Religious or not, it fits. The next little invention shows you the burning through a rope to release a sprinkler system water supply. Very simply, that allows in a forest fire for not using water until it is absolutely necessary. The rope burns through and then the water starts to run. And it is also a very cheap system for buildings as a fire prevention or fire put out. You spread ropes through the building and open valves. Springs work. Another method of warning people is to predict earth movement, earthquakes, by drilling a hole into the area most likely to cause tremors down into the earth. You place a 3-pedestal mirror at the bottom of the hole and a laser on top. One pedestal of this mirror is very sensitive to temperature, which means if the mirror tilts, that the mirror then tilts, which does mean that the laser will tell you if there's a growing threat because the beam will not reflect in the same place. Simple as that. You need to remember this as well. I'm not your leader. Your question to be answered. Don't be led around. Investigate all these extreme experiments and more you will find on my sites. Examine the evidence and find your own truth. Accept what reality demands of you and then choose. What you want is absolutely irrelevant. I'm irrelevant. What matters is whether we live or die as a world. That is your decision because it is humanity that threatens itself. You must make better decisions. Here's a simple thing. I remind you this, that E equals mc squared, or Einstein's theory for energy, is nothing more than the formula for kinetic energy, with speed as a constant. It is not energy. It is merely a representation that mass times speed has force, known by all, with or without the formula, since people began. And these people who cannot even see that, or any other aspect of life comes first, bet your lives on their theories and games, because they think they're so damn smart. We can destroy it all now, or we got tools, or more simply, they just know every life and every future life on this entire planet is being gambled with absolutely none can doubt there are no second chances with a 10 million degree fire, or mutilated biology, or resource loss, or environmental loss, or anything else pandemics released. Even if you believe, and you do, and they tell you for sure we will bring the same fire as is on the sun here, they tell you for sure we are mutilating biology for their God evolution because chaos is great. They tell you for sure, hell no, don't worry about resources or environment, just be happy, as the media lead you to be. The university is your God. Wrong is forever, however. Wrong is cursed by every life you chose to gamble with for an eternity. The university literally believes they can play God. They literally believe no consequences exist. They can do anything. A more stupid generation has never been born. Because media propagation of their religion, the university knows, searches every day for how to make you believe. Therefore, the public has become stupid too. They make you believe, but you must accept it, or you can't believe. They make you believe there is nothing you know or can do. A slave, then, only they have a mind. You are worthless compared to them as rulers. They attempt to make you believe with stories. We made it up. With lies, they hide the evidence. Light's being tranced, it's this illusion, an illusion. And playtime, don't worry, it's all a game. With their experts, they can cheat you with my eyes closed. In languages such as math, hell no, we won't let you understand. Anarchy, the courts belong only to us, as proven in court case after court case. Terrorism, fear what we can do and did do. And of course media, oh mighty master, let us keep this trash from your door, please. These people. And there is of course nothing you can do, death rules. But we can take that game away with limited capitalism and by redress of grievances, a First Amendment legal right demanding we, the people, will control our lives, our future, our destiny as a nation. Not you anymore. We, the people, shall decide everything because we have that legal right, that legal authority and duty to oversee our nation and fight for our world. Including in that trial what this bankruptcy is going to be for us all. We decide the money for ourselves by vote, establishing a jury trial where we are the judge and our employees are on trial. Because in this democracy, we the people are rulers under constitutional law and guidelines. We are judge and jury, not our employees. Think about that. The constitutional preamble and the First Amendment, the agreement that bound the people of the United States of America together, remains our greatest achievement as a nation. The preamble reads, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Today we are in need. Even a newborn infant finds a way to communicate his or her needs because it is life or death realities. So why can't you? Think about it. If you can dig your brain back out of the trash called University Knows, if you can't, we all die soon. Not because I say so, not because biblical prophecy says so, but because the evidence is absolutely clear and irrefutable. Our world, this nature, even our humanity, cannot survive what is being done by a university diploma. How is that not clear? It is only the insanity of a cult that refuses truth. As to the claim, we will learn how to fix every disease and then wipe away every tear and pick and choose whatever we want our bodies to be, or the diversity of what our food will taste like and so on. As with so many university claims, this is just a fantasy. They are destroying life by destroying the sanctity of nature instead. To construct something at least some can understand, let's devise this scenario. So you have a wonderful machine that lets you do many things very easily. That could be a computer or a car or whatever you like it to be. A computer is easiest for this demonstration. Genetics is exactly like someone with only the slightest knowledge of what's outside the box gets to play with your computer as if it was theirs. You have no say. You don't matter. So they start to take it apart, saying, "This is how I learn." They throw water on the electronics, saying, "Oh wow, look at that, we made it smoke," and throw electrical fire around. "That was awesome. Let's go get another one. Take theirs." They then try to change the software. Hell, what could go wrong with that? So they find a key to open the coding and just start typing in anything they want, again and again and again. Oops, now it doesn't work anymore. No problem, just go get another one. Not done yet. I got a hammer and a torch and a soldering iron and 10 snips, and I found an internet connection for all kinds of garbage that can be infected into every single other computer without them even knowing it until later. Isn't that so wonderful? They are now the experts because they know how to destroy what has value to you. Shall that not be feared? It's called respect for what they can do, just like venom in a snake. Never mind it's all bad for life. Hey, like with biology, you don't need a face or a hand or eyes or ears or blood or a mind or a ability to use a body or anything else. Isn't that so? After all, evolution says from rocks, lava, and water came life, came man. They didn't even have fire because fire burns organic materials. No brain, no tools, no food, no reproduction, no nothing. This is your evolutionary God. But the university can make you afraid of the consequences for not worshiping them. After all, weapons of mass destruction are real. All bad. But at least it only takes 2 people to end our world. Well, maybe 1. While the world can easily survive without a computer or any other machine, at least somewhat, no one survives long without nature as it is. No one survives a 10 million degree flame, regardless of what you call it. You cannot be less than completely insane not to know and accept that little, simple little, as in we all know it, obvious truth. Many cry over a tiny cut, yet you allow monkey brains, human-like creatures whose intellect has not even graduated beyond an animal, they call it a diploma, get to play with everything life is, or will ever be, including the planet, gambling with even the solar system itself. To your extreme shame. Not a game. Life is not their toy. It's not yours either. The university makes stories out of nothing. There are tragedies coming from everywhere. There is counterfeiting in every nation to create their toys. Liars, traitors, thieves, cheats, terrorists, and even Satan, going to destroy a world, are all coming through the university. You got medicine though, right? Even though overpopulation is killing everything. Not really wonderful, as in extortion is rampant, because cowards refuse the reality we must demand justice and fair play. The U.S. spends roughly $5 trillion for health care a year. Altogether, that equals about $50,000 per citizen worker before taxes. You have no money left. It's all spent. It's all a lie. Drugs are great, isn't it? Until you know the rest of the story. Etc., etc. In the last few weeks, my hearing was badly decreased. They made the industrial annex called Royal Illinois a new switchyard for trains. And they can't seem to shut a 20,000 horsepower engines off, ever, regardless of the pollution, the resource consumption, cost of maintenance, replacement, noise pollution, trespassing with noise, nothing for life, just disrespect. Like the elevator here, it's an invasion, an army that takes whatever it wants, making all the residents pay without a say, without a single right, because the courts are corrupt and the lawyers are little more than thieves. Even though they claim a right, reality says pricing that defeats democracy itself is betrayal or deliberate anarchy. Add in another 20 to 26,000 horsepower for the trains during switching that stand on the tracks, or even more. That totals up to 50,000 horsepower of motors running. The consequence is my ears are almost gone, but my only real thought regarding that, today at least, is I won't have to hear the world scream while hell takes over our world. At least I won't have to listen to the endless tantrum, "You should have made us do this. It's all your fault," as is consistent with your own proven reality of hide, hide, hide. But that doesn't mean I didn't make mistakes, such as trying to communicate. A can with fluid inside, a can, inside a box under a vehicle becomes a shock absorber for explosive detonations to help you survive that. Didn't do a good job of that, or some other things for that matter. But your failures didn't help either. If you had shown some interest, things would be different. My answer to you is grow up or die. There are literally no second chances to all these threats, no excuses, no exceptions, and you know it's true we can't defeat a 10 million degree fire here. Did you defeat AIDS or anything else, including smallpox? No, they did not. They did in fact just make smallpox worse, and it's waiting inside closed doors to kill our entire world. AIDS is merely now an expensive burden, killing children because you wouldn't pay the price of the vaccination, which was simply sterility in men who are infected, a vasectomy. Not really that much to ask. The next machine, or little invention or suggestion, is called a sail pump. It is a device that uses turbulence, change in wind directions. The fat kites dance in the air, and that converts turbulence into mechanical energy by pumping air through the use of pneumatic cylinders down a hose into an air engine to converted into electrical energy. It's a simple thing. Your answer, of course, to all these threats is, hell no. Not a penny did we spend, not a damn thing did we do, not even for the sake of our entire world and all its life. Not even for your money? Nope. Not a word did we speak, because the university is your God, media is your savior. They tell us everything we want to know, regardless of the evidence shown. They give us greed. That's what we want. Or more simply, you get 10 seconds, or I get 10 seconds, if I got dancing naked girls to impress you, for a teeny bit. Even so, time is about the distance you are allowed to travel before life changes from an action or a reaction into the destiny you created for yourself. That can be done at any age. It is simply more certain to be you when the journey is your own. Or in an alternate sense, death from this world is not important, although killing this world for all future life is beyond comprehension. What is important in life itself is destiny. Destiny is the decision to be an identity called true. That truth, when combined with trust, can then withstand the consequences of what thought shall bring. Without God, our Creator, there is nothing but what you can create for yourself. Are you God? No. The consequences, Hades, a far more intense version of hell on earth. Without God, our Creator, being respected and valued and honestly appreciated, there is only what men did do to life on earth. It will be horrendous, because it is already very bad. You just don't know it. Choose better. But not like the religious who believe prayer is like going shopping for free. It's not. Prayer is remembering life is a gift and responding to the one who gave you that life for free with respect and admiration. Nothing more or less. This concludes the battleground that has been my life. I did do what I could do for life and this world. For 40 years or so, your answer, without notable exception, has been, we want greed, or it's not my problem, or I am too afraid. Today that ends along with the endless demand, don't be distracted, for me, or because our entire world is at stake. Biblical prophecy now gives our world, whole world, just a few weeks to live. Whether that is true or not is irrelevant to me, as the evidence of humanity intent upon igniting this planet on fire cannot be denied, etc., etc. Those tools simply exist now. It's just a matter of time. Consequently, I do believe the prophecy will come true. Our existence will end soon then, unless you change that fact. No indication of any kind that you will exist at this time. Time is running out for us all. Consequently, the time has come to surrender you to your own fate. Even if I play a bit with more words, simply because that became what I did do for my life in my time on earth. As for me, it's too late to change. It has no purpose. There isn't enough time left. Searching for personal happiness would just make this world harder to lose. This world is or was beautiful. Life is beautiful, even if many people are not. If you don't know that, you just didn't look. Too bad only a very few grew up enough to care. Nearly all the rest lost to a game of who can collect the most trophies, or in contrast, it's who has dug or fell into a hole so deep all the world is just an enemy. Add to that the believer, I want what I want, and I refuse everything else. And then we add the cult, my God cannot be questioned, as is the university. And the cowards who say, I can't, the world, someone might notice me for evil. But if you got through the whole dissertation to this point, congratulations. You're one of only a tiny few who did not immediately run away at just a tiny little information throughout 4 decades of work. In conclusion, throughout these 5 movies, there are images used with no intent to take credit for them or the work done, as presented in quotes or creations that are not my own. On www.justtalking4.info, there is or will be a written transcript of the movies with links used. Should any have a problem with extending their work in protection of the planet or its life, I remind you that this is the purpose you presented, and I am simply helping you achieve that goal, same as mine. Life must come first. If that was not your intent, then you must make that clear. No financial gain exists, nor is it expected. Not one single penny throughout 40 years has been donated to this work. Why would I expect that to change? Today it is irrelevant. Biblically speaking, it is too late to matter. By the evidence of this day and 40 years or more of work, I can't stop you. You want what you want, period. I cannot communicate with you. If I am challenging your God's people you trust most, they don't need to be questioned. That's the answer, regardless of the evidence or the realities involved. Nor can I save a single soul. Jesus does that by creating a path of evidence to follow. It's not hocus pocus magic. It's your own deliberate work, your own search, and your own decisions. I have kept this work alive. Accepting the truth to be distracted can be disastrous. I will pay through September 2015. No longer accepting I have a purpose here as of now. Just a right to continue as I please. Whatever you decide for yourselves is whatever you did do, good, bad, or indifferent. James Frank Osterbur. Originally written 7/13/15.